Hi there, welcome to 110 RC Scale Tales, and tonight it's episode 3 of the interviews. And tonight I've travelled across the Forth Bridge to the west of Edinburgh to a small village to meet up with Stephen Hynds and Nick Harland, both members of a local radio-controlled drift club. We're going to look at the cars, see some action and learn about RC drifting. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, share the video, all of the above. Enjoy the video. Cheers now. Okay, good evening guys. Welcome to 110 RC Scale Tales, and thank you for inviting me along this evening and agreeing to be interviewed on episode 3 of the interviews. So in front of me I've got Stephen Hynds and Nick Harland, both members of Dorizoku, in other words Drift Clan, and they're going to talk about the drift cars. We're going to see some drift car action and look a bit closer at the actual RC models. But before we do that, we're going to speak to you individually and learn a bit more about how your interest in radio control started. So I'll start with you, Stephen. Good evening. And so tell me, when did you get into RC?
My first RC car was a Tamiya Mud Blaster in, I think, 93 or 94, around about then. Bought it, enjoyed it, built it, drove it, smashed it up probably, and then fell away from RC cars as a teenager and as an adult. Bought one because I had a Subaru Impreza at the time, so I bought a Tamiya Impreza to build, and then it sat on the shelf not really doing much, and then a drift track opened up along the road from where I live, and I went along one night to have a look at it and came back the next week with the Tamiya drift car with new wheels and tyres on it and new batteries, and was pretty much hooked at that point. And
Excellent. So the Mud Blaster, I think most people when they get into RC, it's the Tamiyas that kick off the hobby, and I believe the Mud Blaster has just been re-released again by Tamiya on a different chassis. Is that right? I don't know.
The Subaru Black body shell has not the Mud Blaster like decals and things, I think.
Right. Okay.
But the Brat body shell has certainly been released.
Excellent. All right, so Nick, yourself, what about you? So good evening and welcome to the channel. When did you start RC?
Probably would have been around about 1996, and my first car was a Tamiya Dirt Thrasher as well, a buggy. Friends had one, had to have one, kind of fell away from there. Had a couple of RC cars in the meantime, minis and stuff, and then fell away. A bit like Stephen, picked up as an adult. One of our friends at the time had a track, who set up a track, and fell into a slippery slope from there.
As we all do in the world of RC, you get one and then another one soon behind it. So you said minis. Now, am I right in saying you're an avid collector of the real thing, the original mini? Yeah.
Yeah, we've currently got 3 in our fleet.
A fleet.
Flip cars. We've got a 1980 HL, which is fully restored. It's my wife's car. His name's George. We've got a 1991 Cooper called Ruby, and we've got a 79 850 called Beryl.
Oh, superb. And you mentioned, Stephen, the Subaru Tamiya RC car.
Yeah.
And you talked, before we started the interview, you talked about you helped at an amateur level with some motor racing. Was that with Subaru as well?
No, so I used to do some track days when I had my Subaru.
Okay.
Loved them, and then through that sort of got into the track day scene, and then a friend of mine who I was working with was doing some track days as well, and he's got a kit car, and he decided he was going to do some speed events, so hill climbs and sprints. So he went and did that with the kit car he had at the time, and then he upgraded that, bought a new one, and I've helped him out ever since then. So him and I have been all over the place where he's racing that, and he was runner-up in the Scottish Sprint Championship one year, and then yeah, it's a pain sometimes, but other times it's great. So it keeps me out of trouble.
The thing is with motorsport, almost RC hobby sort of falls hand in hand with those that do motorsport. And from big cars to little cars, I believe you're an avid collector of Hot Wheels.
Yeah, I've got a few hundred maybe.
Few hundred. And we're not talking, well, possibly we might be talking about the ones that you see regularly in supermarkets, but you go for the collectible ones that...
I've got a bunch of the main lines, as they call them, the supermarket ones, but I haven't been buying them much at all recently, but I've got a lot of the car culture ones. So
right.
they had a limited UK release recently, but I've got a lot of American ones, and then I've got a lot of Red Line Collector Club ones as well, so they are limited to sort of, it depends on the release, but somewhere between a few thousand and maybe 12, 15,000 cars.
Excellent. So, back to RC drifting. Obviously, my focus when radio control is crawling and scale off-roaders and stuff. I was part of this club a few years back and did have my own drift car. There's a certain kind of wizardry with RC drifting. Would you not say so? It's not just ramp up with your car and go. There's a bit of... Yeah. Would that be fair to say? There's a bit of wizardry going on there. Could you explain the wizardry that happens in an RC drift car?
So I suppose there's two different types of drift car, which is your old school four-wheel drive, or countersteer as we would call it, which is where the rear wheels are driven more than the front wheels. But the hobbies went away from that, and then we're all on rear-wheel drive cars now.
Right.
But driving a rear-wheel drive car on a slippery surface when you can't feel what it's doing is really difficult. So all the cars have got gyro sensors in them, which will just correct the steering a little bit as you drive along, and then when you put the car in a slide, it'll countersteer a little bit. You're still having to drive it and control the throttle and control the steering, and it just helps that little bit to stabilise the car, because we run slick plastic tyres, or there's no grip on them really.
Yep.
So driving without a driver is very difficult.
Right. Okay. So these both cars, I believe they're the same chassis. Yeah.
They're variations of the same chassis.
Yeah. So Nick, why don't you tell us a bit about your one and who makes it? Yeah.
So this started life as a Yokomo YD2 SX2, and has slowly over time been modified and upgraded. So we have Yokomo DXR motor. We've got a Sono 120S TS120 ESC. As you do with most of these, they come in different colour variations, so I've tried to colour code mine as much as possible. Right. So you have your Yokomo purple big bore shocks, you've got your Yokomo SPO3 servo, and your Yokomo V4 gyro, as Stephen mentioned earlier on.
Yep.
And these are custom made chassis decks in support of Zeromax, which is we'll probably talk about in a bit.
So the basic kit you can readily buy from your local RC model shop, but then it's a case of customising them to their level. And are the parts readily available for these?
Yeah, not so much in Scotland, unfortunately. But there's a lot of UK stockists, and Nick and I have been working on a little bit of a special project recently.
All right, okay.
Where we're building a short version of this chassis. So these are all 257mm wheelbase, and we're building a 240mm wheelbase to run a shorter shell to make it more scale looking car. And so to do that, we've been having to buy some parts that are interesting. And
right.
yeah, so we've been shopping in Japan, the Netherlands, England, so
anywhere we can find the bits, really.
Yeah. But there's nothing really particularly unique about most of these cars. You can get most of the things in a good hobby shop down south. Unfortunately, up here there's not really the big scene for it yet.
I believe there's a number of specialists in England and Holland and Belgium. And obviously Japan being the home of drifting, there's plenty of stuff available there. So most of the kits are
Japanese brands or Japanese electronics that we use. So
Do you find most people now getting into the hobby, come into the hobby with these type of cars, or do you find that they're coming in with their Tamiyas and then quickly moving on to?
9 times out of 10, the general question that we get is, how do you make a four-wheel drive car drift? And they're swiftly met with a decision that they have to quickly upgrade to a rear-wheel drive chassis.
Yeah.
It's purely down to what other people are driving at the clubs, because you could take a four-wheel drive and you could drift it. It's not really a drift, it's like a power slide, but if you met a club with other cars that are rear-wheel drive, it just won't handle the same. So we encourage people to try to come to a club, see what everyone's driving, and get a better idea of what's available at the time, and see stuff from there.
Cool. So I noticed the bodies, if we look at the shells, both of the shells, both excellent scale derivatives of the real car.
Yeah.
But one thing that is noticeably different from both cars is one is clearly a shiny team shell, and the other one looks like it's
Not so shiny.
not so shiny, and maybe headed out to the scrapyard. But I know they're designed to look like that, and it's called a rocket, yeah, or a missile.
A missile.
Yeah. So you want to tell us more about these? Because
Sure. Well, Stevens is a chaser shell, a Dorizoku Mark II shell, which we came up with. We had a team Zeromax, which we competed in the World's qualifier a couple of years ago, and we came up with a style and design which we took down. There was 4 of us, all had the same looking shell. And Stephen just happens to have kept us in very good condition since
right,
the
okay.
competition.
it looks shinier than it is. I think is the thing.
No, it looks absolutely amazing. And am I right in saying, Nick, you designed the livery?
Yeah.
So you are Zeromax, yeah?
Yes, I own Zeromax, which is an RC decal company here in Scotland. We basically design, print and cut 1/10 scale graphics for the drift scene, for crawlers, for boats, as Mark will know.
Yeah.
Pretty much any 1/10 scale or any kind of scale really we design and print for.
No, I can certainly vouch for the decals, because a lot of the viewers will recognise your work on a lot of the crawlers that I run, the military vehicles, as you say, boats.
Yeah.
Anytime I get an idea, that message appears, and you go, oh no, here he is. What does he want this time?
Pretty much.
So what this one here, the missile?
So yeah, the flip scale of the clean race team livery is a style called a missile, which is a Japanese kind of style of car, which is a kind of run what you've run type ethos, where if it drives, they basically can drift it. So if it's dented, dinged, bashed, rusty, no glass, that's if it drives, that they're happy to drive it that way. So I wanted to replicate that. So I've got makeshift rust, I've got cracked panels, I've got different colour painted panels, and yeah, it's pretty much got in that kind of style.
No, they look really, really impressive, and it's part of the hobby which interests me as well is the realism of the cars, which similarly is almost like the crawlers and the scalers.
I think that's what unites crawlers or scalers and drifters is that they want to enjoy driving, but they want to enjoy looking at them as well. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes the driving of them is more about making it look realistic as well. So, for me, like buggy racing or touring car racing is so quick. It's almost unreal, and I think sometimes drifting can be quite quick as well. And there's a bit of an arms race with power, and sometimes just about slowing it down and making it look like actual real cars drifting. And,
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a motto we use when we're RC crawling, is drive it like you're in it.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's the same with the drifter.
Very
Yeah,
much so.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not about tearing around the track.
No, and yes, there's competitions like just like there's competitions in the crawling scene as well now, but it's more about just coming and having a laugh with your pals and
Enjoying the hobby.
enjoying the hobby, and we'll try and get doing tandems or trains of cars, and you try to intimidate the person that's in front of you. You know, that's all part of the game, but it's great fun.
So, so obviously you guys are speaking, and behind you we've got some of the members of the club drifting or doing strange things with a barrier at the moment. What I'm going to do is we're going to put some footage on of you guys actually doing a drift battle, because it's not about first across the line, it's a battle. So again, Nick, do you want to explain what the battle is?
Yeah, just like 1/10 scale crawling is, it's a 1/10 scale of actual drifting racing. So the theory behind it is it's about proximity. So your chase car is literally trying to follow your lead car with as close proximity to it as possible, while basically hitting certain areas of the track with either the front or the back of the car. And yeah, it's about style really over speed and the kind of aspect of the race and such. It's more.
It's a judged sport rather than a timed sport.
Right.
So
Okay.
it does come down to a human's interpretation of who did it best, but there's rules there, and we try and do some battles when we get a chance, and we try and get a bit of practicing, but yeah, it's a judged thing, so it's not about speed.
Okay, so let's have a look at that now. Let's have a look at the drift battle, and we'll speak to you after that a little bit more about it. So we've just looked at the drift battle. Very interesting. Some skillful driving, I have to say. Is it quite easy to drift the car?
It can be challenging at times. A lot of it, I would say, is actually comes down to the setup of your car. If your car's not set up correctly, you won't be able to drift. So yeah, there's a bit of, like you were saying at the start of the interview, there's a bit of a dark art in setting up a car, but Stephen seems to be our resident tech who is quite hands-on with.
I'm just quite good at
setting things up,
reading what other people have done and then copying it and interpreting it. And yeah, I think if you do this long enough, and you know, Nick and I have both been doing this for 6 years or something now, and you do start to pick things up. You know, you learn about the shocks, or you learn about the suspension setup, the steering setup, and you know the
weight transfer.
You can see on the bottom here, or looking underneath it, how wide a track we're on at the front compared to the rear. So you learn about what difference that makes. And like tonight, I put these tyres on, or wheels on, to run a different shell, which never worked in the end. And when I tried to drive it tonight, the front wheels I was using were 2mm offset further in than the ones that are on it just now, and the car drives totally differently on those wheels, because my car's been set up to have an offset of a specific amount, and by narrowing it in 2mm each side, it just completely changes how it handles. And it's, you know, it's not that it handles badly, it's just it's not as nice a setup as it is now, and you do. There's a lot you can change in, you know, the tuning of the electronics, the suspension, the steering, everything, the weight distribution, it all has an effect on it.
Superb. Oh, well, listen guys, thank you very much for inviting me along tonight and taking part in episode 3 of the interviews. Guys watching the channel, thank you for watching. Please like the video, comment down below, share the video, and hopefully look forward to seeing some more drifting soon. Thank you guys. Oh, by the way, Nick, what I'll do is I'll put a link to your Zeromax decals in the description. And you've got Stephen, you've got a YouTube channel?
There's not much on it, but just put, go to the Dorizoku page and look like that, and then come along to the club if you fancy having a shot at drifting. We've got a hire car, which you can pre-book as long as you message the page the day before the run.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, once again, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers now.